Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So after like 3 or 4 weeks, so basically almost a month, I finally was able to get around to watching this movie because the last Marvel movie I watched was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then I had to wait like 3 or 4 weeks for my parents to be available so we could watch Infinity War, which I think, if I remember right, I mentioned something about that in the Guardians 3 video where I was like, it's going to be a while for me probably since Infinity War. Thankfully, it's like, on one hand, it's enough time where I still remember the Guardians movies, but with Guardians 3 being the last one I watched kind of isn't a good thing, actually, because that one's after this. So, it was really interesting watching this in that I forgot this came out in 2018, which isn't that long ago. I'm recording this February 2026 for context. But I think in terms of Marvel movies, because I'll be honest, after Endgame, I didn't really watch anything except I think for the Loki TV show. I don't think I haven't watched a Marvel movie since Endgame, like of any, besides Guardians 3 actually. That I think has like come out after Endgame. I've pretty much just not engaged with anything with Marvel at all, just because I don't really care anymore. And also Infinity War and Endgame were really good where it felt like an ending and I'm like, I'm good if I don't see anything else. But yeah, it feels crazy because this is my only rewatch of the movie. I have not, so this is my second viewing. I have not seen this since my ass was sitting back in theaters in 2018 watching this for the first time. And it's interesting because like enough time has passed, thankfully, where I don't remember like every little detail. So this is as like fresh of like a viewing as I could get, for a rewatch, which is really nice. It felt kind of really chill this time because I wasn't on like the edge of my seat or anything wondering what was gonna happen. I already knew it was gonna happen for like the major stuff, like the ending of this movie being pretty crazy and stuff, and the characters involved I sort of remembered, and I'm not sitting in a theater. I still remember when I watched this for the first time because it feels like it goes so fast because there's so many characters that keep popping up on screen, that I remember when I sat in theaters watching this, I was trying so hard to like, whenever the movie would kind of slow down a bit, to like kind of piece together in my head of keeping track of like, okay, this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing happened. Because sometimes I have to just do that as I'm watching a movie in theaters just to remember. Even though a movie, it's usually like 2 hours or less for a lot of movies, but I feel like when you're in theaters watching something for the first time and feeling that sort of hype, no matter what it is, it's like you're trying. I feel like I usually end up forgetting the beginning of the movie by like the hour into the movie, and this was no exception originally, but this time, since I already knew it was going to happen, it just felt easier to watch. I was surprised I didn't really get emotional. Like there were parts that made me sad. There was like a part at the end that made me sad, but I mean, I don't think I cried the first time I watched. Okay, I feel like I need to give part of the context in that I've never actually sat to watch all of the Marvel movies in order, at least the ones up until like Endgame. It's funny because like I had Disney Plus for a while, and because now like to watch it I have to like go to relatives' house, or I watch this on YouTube TV or some stuff on Hulu. I've had to find like other ways and stuff, but like there's like a 10-year gap now between when this movie came out and when I'm recording this, between my first watch and my second watch. And I had Disney Plus for a time, and I had it for like a couple of months, I think. So theoretically I could have actually just sat and like gave it a few good weeks. I mean, I was still going through school and stuff, so I didn't really have the time, but like I could have made it work somehow of watching all of these, and I feel really bad that I didn't. Not only that I haven't watched all of these in order to get to this point, but also that there's still so many that I haven't seen. Like I only started watching the Marvel movies or having any interest in them when the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie came out, and then I think I saw some of the Thor ones, and then I kind of started watching like a bit more once you know, it was getting to the point of like Infinity War where like I knew who the characters were, but I didn't know a lot of their backstories or who a lot of the other characters were, and I'm still in that boat, sadly. Like I think I'd at least seen Iron Man. And the thing is, like, these movies, I think with Iron Man, you know, with the MCU and stuff, like, started back in, like, 2008. And that's the thing where it's, like, I was old enough where I could have seen them in theaters, and I was old enough to have, like, followed along in theaters. It's just, I was little, and I didn't care, and I didn't know any of these were connected. Because for me, it was just that, like, my mom and my brother were the ones going to see these, which is really funny actually, because I watched this with my parents, which is relevant for this review because I also wrote down some of their reactions because I thought it was funny. My mom technically should be the one out of the three of us that should be the most engaged with this movie, in the fact that she's the one that's seen more Marvel movies out of any of us. It's just that she doesn't care, and she, for context, doesn't remember that we saw a commercial because we watched, because that's the thing, this movie's like 3 hours, and with YouTube TV I should have just waited another day. We could have skipped through all the commercials. We're only able to skip through like half of them because the commercials for like the first half of the movie, because then it was like on TV live and we needed to keep watching it. So it made my this particular viewing longer than it should have been, but like not as long as it could have been, basically. But we had a commercial for Guardians 3, and actually, hold on. All right, I'm back. I probably should have done that before the review, but I had to just shower really quick. Should be no more interruptions. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, we saw a commercial for Guardians 3, and my mom didn't remember. She had to ask me, like, did we watch that movie? And it's like, we watched it like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, her having seen most of these movies pre-Infinity War actually did not help. I actually had to, because both my parents were there, had to spend a lot of the movie where someone would ask, it was usually my dad, but he doesn't care about any of these, of being, except for Guardians, of being like, oh, who's this, what does this person do, whatever. And I kind of wish I didn't have to do that, and I could have just sat and watched the movie. But I expect that. I expect that with watching like almost any of the Marvel movies, but mostly pretty much anything with my parents. It's like specifically with my dad. It's actually kind of funny the way I got to watch this movie. I mean, actually, yeah, we only have one TV that has YouTube TV, so I could have only watched it on our downstairs TV, this movie. And I don't get to use that TV very often, so it was either I could have watched this by myself, which I originally planned to at least watch Endgame by myself, or I had to wait until my parents were like, at least one of them was potentially interested. And the way I got them to agree to watch this with me, just so that I could be able to watch Endgame, because they didn't want me to watch Endgame without them, and I needed to justify, like, hey, we have to watch Infinity War first, was that we watched Guardians. Both my parents love Guardians. My dad has been really into Groot for some reason the past few weeks. I kept getting text messages that just said, I am Groot, for the past couple weeks. It's just been on the brain for him. And they didn't really know about these movies, or at least my dad didn't, and I was like, hey, do you want to just see Teenage Groot? And they're like, hell yeah. So that's Groot is the reason I got to rewatch this movie. I'm not even kidding. Which made it kind of funny when we got to the final scene. I'm just kind of more going over my parents' reactions to things first. I thought was funny. And then I'll start at the beginning of my notes with this. When we got to the final scene, when everyone's getting turned into dust, and my parents didn't really care, had like some comments on like the people that were getting turned to dust, and they both went, no, not Groot. Like, they got a little emotional when he ended up getting snapped and turned into dust, and almost didn't really care about like anyone else except for Groot and Drax, but mostly Groot. That was funny to me. And then what else? They complain about characters in movies being stupid, but with this movie I just wanted to go like shush, and sometimes I did, sometimes, where they kept saying like, why didn't they cut off Thanos's arm, which actually no, I didn't have a good counter to that, but my dad kept saying, why don't they like chop off his head? They whined, mostly my dad, the entire movie about that, of like, why didn't they cut off Thanos's head? So then when it finally was getting to the part where Thanos says the line of, you should have gone for the head, I just shushed them right before, because they saw that, you know, the Thor's axe at the end, you know, their like final attack against Thanos went through the chest. I knew my dad was about to say something about that, and I was like, shh, because I wanted them to hear the line. I thought I was going to get a stronger reaction from them. I thought it was going to be like Thanos was going to say, you should have gone for the head, and my dad would have been like, ha, I've been telling them that the whole movie. But no. So that was a little disappointing. And I kept having to explain about, characters. They liked the Guardian segments. I mean, I did too. That was part of the reason I wanted to rewatch these again as well. But then I did make the mistake of saying that, oh, these events happened before the third Guardians, and they both got mad at me of like, why didn't we watch these first? And it was that I didn't know these were on YouTube TV. I don't know what movies are on YouTube TV until I search for them or whatever. Like, I think when I was in the recommended after watching Guardians, Endgame popped up, and that's the only way I knew, and I was gonna watch that by myself until they were like, I want to watch that with you, and then I had to find Infinity War. It's been a whole thing. Okay, I'm gonna give some like general thoughts, I guess, before I kind of get into my notes, which I don't have an insane amount of notes actually, so this probably won't be like 2 hours or whatever. General thoughts. I'm really glad I got to rewatch this movie again. And I'm just talking about the movie itself, not as its connection to Endgame and stuff. As its own movie, I'm really happy to rewatch this again. Like I said, haven't seen this since I originally saw it in theaters. It felt really nice to just be able to watch this and not worry about like what's gonna happen to the characters and stuff. So this one's fine. It's actually, it doesn't hit as hard on rewatch, but it's still really fun. I just think it's like a really well-made movie. There's several scenes in the movie you're gonna hear me talk about like, man, this is such a good scene. And you know, because it is. I mean, of course there's things, you know, also because it's a movie and stuff, where the characters could have made better decisions for sure, but like every movie's like that. I mean, I still remember in theaters there's a specific part I got mad at, but I'm sure it's the part that like everyone got mad at. But I'll talk about that when it comes up in the notes. But I mean, I feel like I also can't get mad, you know, because these are like following the comics. It's all kind of like predetermined in that sense of how it's gonna go down, you know. So I feel like I can't even get mad. I mean, in theaters it's like, you know, when you're in the moment, you're watching it for the first time and everything going down and whatever, and me, you know, having only watched the movies, not knowing what's gonna happen, you know, getting mad at characters and stuff back then was fine. But here it's like I was a bit more chill about everything. It was nice to have that. But yeah, it's my fault in terms of my reactions, I guess, in that I could have watched more Marvel movies from pre-Infinity War before this viewing when I still had Disney Plus. I had the chance and I didn't take it, and I regret that because there's still a lot of things that don't hit as hard, where it's like I understand who these people are, but I don't have the emotional impact that would have probably made this more meaningful as, say, like someone who had like watched these in order in theaters as they came out. So I feel bad about that. I am glad at least I just had rewatched all the Guardians movies and stuff, and it was nice to watch the third one too and then go back to this. I think it made the parts with the Guardians, but especially with all the stuff with Gamora and Thanos, I think just hit a lot harder than, say, like the first time I watched this and I hadn't seen Guardians 2 since it had been in theaters, you know, like it had been a bit. So those parts of the movie kind of hit more hard, but everything else, like I hadn't been like caught up or anything. It's been a while since I've seen like any Marvel movies since I'd originally seen them, other than like Guardians of the Galaxy. The funny thing is, and I do feel bad, is that we've had the original Avengers movie on Prime. Like, my brother bought it for like the past couple years. I could have at least watched that before watching this, and I had time and I forgot, and it only finally like clicked with me as I was watching Infinity War, where I was like, damn, because I don't think I've actually seen the original Avengers, or if I had, it's so long ago I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know. I think some things might have triggered in my memory a little bit. Like, I forgot, and I'm going off my notes now. The Loki having the Tesseract thing, I think, was probably from the first Avengers, and I think I barely remembered about that. Because I remember everybody fighting over this like blue cube and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's the beginning of the movie. I'd seen some of the Thor movies. I think the last one I watched was Ragnarok, and that one I think it did end with like Asgard getting destroyed and everybody going in this spaceship. So I did at least understand the beginning, where it's like, you know, Thor's in the spaceship and everyone's like dead and stuff. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen that too, so that also didn't hit as hard as it was supposed to. And at least that did remind me, even though I had to explain to my dad, of like, oh, why Thor's missing an eye. I'm glad that he gets a new eye in this, because I just realized he has like the eye patch on the poster still, so the not having a second eye thing, I guess, didn't last very long. But yeah, I forgot in this that Loki gets killed like 5 minutes into this movie. There's something about that was just kind of funny to me. But then I'm also thinking like, damn, I guess I need to watch Endgame, because I remember watching the Loki TV series, at least, where he's, you know, alive, and I don't remember how he comes back to life. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people come back to life with Endgame. I don't really remember it that well. It's probably all gonna come back to me by like the time I watch it, which thankfully will be tomorrow. Thankfully, it's gonna be crazy though. I'll get back to my notes in a minute. You know, I had to wait with everybody else for a year, you know, for Endgame to come out. I was there for the whole cultural impact of everyone getting snapped, and I was sad about it in theaters and everything. I still remember sitting through that. And now on this rewatch, with my second time of watching both of these movies, I get to say, yeah, I watched Infinity War today, and then I get to watch Endgame tomorrow. That's still just crazy for me. Okay, let me see, what else do I have in my notes. I'm taking a guess, because I forgot about like the Hulk being in this movie, because like Bruce isn't able to Hulk out except for like the beginning of the movie, and then the Hulk refuses to come out, which my dad kept making fun of like, oh, he probably doesn't want to come out because he got his ass kicked in the beginning. I'm assuming they don't have Bruce get to be the Hulk in this movie, just because I'm assuming he'd be like too overpowered, is my guess. So they gotta like not really give him much to do throughout the whole movie, which is kind of a bummer. I like seeing the whole smash stuff, but I mean, I get it, because you get to see him fight Thanos at the beginning, like pre getting any of the stones besides, you know, like the Power Stone, the purple one, and he handles at least a little bit of their fight well. So I'm like, okay, I can imagine they gotta keep him out of it. I mean, I'm glad at least he still gets, like, Bruce still gets scenes, but that only finally like clicked with me a little on this rewatch of like, oh yeah, that's probably why he doesn't get to do anything. And I'm glad the movie at least sums up a little bit of stuff, mostly to characters that are gone, trying to fill them in, of like some of the things that have happened. Like they explain the stuff about Thor of like, oh yeah, his sister took his eye, which thankfully that was one of the things I did remember. Or the Avengers get to see each other again, and they have to explain like, yeah, the Avengers broke up, and they make that joke about, oh, like a band like the Beatles, that it did actually get a little of a chuckle out of me. Yeah, I forgot there was movies where the Avengers weren't a thing anymore and had to fight each other, and I didn't remember why, and the movie does kind of explain it a bit, so that was nice to have that context. And that's the thing where I'm like, I wish I had seen some of these where it's, you know, even, you know, as watching the movie, it's like a big deal where the characters that are a part of the Avengers get to see each other again after who knows how many years. And I think Hulk had been in the Thor movies and has like been in space and shit for a while. So he's that I remembered. I didn't remember what was going on with the rest of like the Avengers that were split up. So it's like a big deal in the movie of everybody getting back, bringing the band back together, so to speak, that I didn't even know why they were apart in the first place going into this. So it didn't. I thought I heard like a wolf howl or something outside. What the heck? Okay. So the Marvel quips, I know that's always a joke with like a lot of movies of like, you know, certain kinds of lines, even if they're not in a Marvel movie and everyone's like, oh, they're making the Marvel quips. I forgot, I mean, besides like watching Guardians and stuff about, you know, the Marvel quips coming from Marvel movies, let me explain. Because I feel like in other stuff, they can come off as, like, not really funny. And even some of the clips within this movie aren't funny. But I forgot that, like, with how they're delivered and by who and whatever, that sometimes they can be funny. There are things in this movie that made me laugh. I think I'd at least seen the first Iron Man movie. I don't think I saw the rest. I'm not like as familiar with Iron Man. I forgot that Tony Stark is actually pretty fucking funny, and I wrote in my notes. I missed the Marvel quips, but I missed Tony Stark as a character because you know, with like what happens with him in Endgame and stuff, you don't get to see him after that, so you only have him for like the movies pre Endgame, but I hadn't seen most of those, so because he really is, I always forget about that, like the main character of like all of these, pretty much, with all of these starting from like Iron Man. But yeah, I laughed at several things in this movie. I wrote some of them down, but his character I think had the most lines. Him and like the Guardians characters I think had the lines that kind of just kept me laughing the most. I liked his interaction specifically with Doctor Strange, and then getting to meet of like they're two people that both have like an insane amount of like a big ego, basically. I forgot about Ned. I think I'd seen like one or two of the Spider-Man movies. I know I saw No Way Home. So then it was really weird for me. Because I'm used to how that ends, where Spider-Man's kind of back to being like a nobody, basically, kind of setting the sort of original status quo in a sense of like that's usually how Spider-Man is. That I forgot how he was pre like Endgame, you know, of, you know, he's got access to the Tony Stark tech. He literally joins the Avengers in this movie, which is funny because like that should probably be a really big deal, but like with all the crazy stuff going on in the movie, it's just kind of like okay, you're an Avenger now, and then the movie like continues. But yeah, I forgot about his friends. I actually like Ned. I forgot about Ned completely. But the part when he yells on the bus, where Peter's like, I need you to make a distraction, he just yells out to all the kids in like the happiest voice possible of like, hey, we're all gonna die. Look at that spaceship out there. Still gets a really big laugh from me. And then I think Stan Lee is their bus driver. From what I remember. I know he's in like a ton of the cameos in all of these and eventually passes away. I don't remember by which movie or what year it is, but you know, always nice to see his cameos. I'm glad, back to the Spider-Man stuff, you know, that with No Way Home he goes back to being like normal friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and stuff. I'm glad for that. But I do also miss, I like the suit that he has in this that has the like the metal spider legs that comes out of it, and those get put to like pretty fair use in the movie. He definitely needs that suit upgrade just to be able to like keep up with, you know, he's got to fight Thanos now and stuff. But I am glad that none of that is really a thing anymore. Though I will say, the part I mentioned at the beginning of this, that there was a part that even got me a little emotional. Not like in tears or tearing up or anything, but I was just like, oh man. It's always the part, I'm saying always, I guess, because it happened to me the first time I watched this too, when Spider-Man, the Thanos snap thing, and he's talking to Tony about like, oh, what's happening, and he's freaking out, and like everyone dies really fast. The way the characters die is almost it's just the way it is. In my head, I remembered it as being faster than it actually is. They gotta say their lines and then they turn into dust, and like the timing of that. But then with Peter, it happens a lot slower. I'm assuming because of the spider senses, which I feel like makes it worse, that he probably could tell that he could probably physically tell he was going to turn into dust faster than like when it actually happened, because he's more kind of on alert. Like with everyone else, they're like, whoa, and then they like die. And then with him, it's like he starts freaking out before it actually happens. And I'm thinking like, oh man, poor kid. But when he's saying the line of like, I don't feel so good, and Tony's just like, yeah, don't worry about it, you're gonna be okay, and then he dies, that gets me. That's like one of the big things, or probably the thing in the movie that gets me, I think. Oh man, there was something else with that I was going to say. What was it? The pop culture references when they talk about aliens, him calling Aliens an old movie, my mom and I both kind of laughed at that a little bit. And now I finally get that reference, because I hadn't seen Aliens the first time. Any of the Aliens, it's funny, I hadn't seen any of the Aliens movies when I originally saw this movie in theaters. So the part when they're like, oh, but the kid's seen more movies, and then the guy that they keep calling Squidward gets blasted out of the airlock or whatever, out of the spaceship, like in Aliens. I just thought, oh, cool. But now it's funny because like not only do I get that reference, but now I'm like a really big Aliens fan. And that made me think of like, damn, yeah, it has been a while since this movie's come out, that I had enough time. I could have watched the Avengers movies and like more of the Marvel movies, and I didn't, and yet I watched all of the Aliens movies in between these watches. It's kind of nice. You get to see, especially after watching all the Guardians movies, of getting to see a little, like a tiny bit of just normal Guardians interactions before things get crazy, where for them, by the time we check in with them, probably like an hour, half an hour into the movie or wherever it is, they're gonna just do like a mission, and they have their funny little interactions, and then they find all the dead bodies, and they find Thor, and then things get serious for there. I feel so bad for Gamora in this movie. Like as soon as the characters are talking about the stones, and they're like, yeah, we don't even know where the soul stone is, you just see all the pain in her eyes immediately. I actually couldn't remember if she knew how getting the stone works for the entire movie, so I wasn't sure up until the point when they actually get the stone if she knew she was going to die. But I think it's just that since she knew where it was and she couldn't tell Thanos and everything, she's like the only person that knows. She at least knows that this is a big deal, and she's ready to like sacrifice herself anytime. My dad did bring up a good point, actually, because she makes the promise to Peter to like, hey, can you kill me before Thanos finds me and stuff, and then she does try to have him kill her, and it doesn't work because Thanos already has like the reality stone and whatever, which the reality stone is crazy. I feel like it's the craziest one out of all the stones. I mean, eventually he gets the one where he can literally rewind time, but I feel like that's the one that's like kind of crazy, and I feel like it should have been used more often. The movie would have gone by so much faster. Plus the effects that were made out of it, of what he did to people, were kind of fun in a way of like just being really bizarre. I kind of wanted to see more of that. But yeah, my dad brought up this point after she like makes Peter promise, and I like that was like a bit more of an emotional scene of like, hey, promise you'll kill me, and my dad was like, why doesn't she just do it herself? And I actually am now thinking about the same thing of like, why didn't she? That's the thing that I think makes the movie hard, in that I was kind of paying more attention to like, okay, there are specific points, or they had like a specific amount of time where they could have done X action, and it could have made things a lot easier, of like, Gamora being the only person to know where the stone was. But I mean, once they get to the planet where they get the soul stone, like, yeah, there was no way she was getting out of that alive. But she could have like probably offed herself somehow at like any point before that. And it's like, bam, no one else, I think, would have known where the Soul Stone was, and he just wouldn't have been able to get it. Or the thing with Vision where it's like they could have destroyed the stone and they eventually do the yellow one. I forgot what that one's called, like the Mind Stone or whatever. I just find it really funny that that's the last stone they end up getting, or Thanos ends up getting, and they go through all this effort to prevent it, and then he just the part where he like rewinds time and just gets the stone, and it's just that easy. But the fact that it's like the very last stone and it could have been destroyed, I mean, I get emotionally why Wanda wasn't going to do that until the last possible second, but I just find that kind of almost funny in a way. Anyway, back to the Guardians stuff. Yeah, it was nice to see the normal Guardians interactions. Drax thinking Thor was hot was kind of funny to me, but then the parts I really don't like Peter in this, Peter Quill, I should say. Yeah, because Spider-Man's also called Peter. I didn't realize there's two characters called Peter. I guess I gotta call him like Star-Lord at this point to get it out of my brain. Him being jealous of I didn't like him in this movie, but I feel like that's the part that pisses off a lot of people, where they, the big thing. And it's funny, it's been like 10 years or whatever since this movie came out, and I still got mad at the part when they almost get the gauntlet off of Thanos, and Star-Lord fucks it up because he gets upset about Gamora. And then there's the parts where he gets like jealous of Thor, which I'm glad wasn't like a long bit. I feel like it's supposed to be funny, but it just came off as like kind of cringe, his attempts of trying to seem as cool. Rocket wanting to become besties with Thor was one of the things I really liked with this movie. Oh, yeah, Groot's there too. That was the thing. My dad asked me at one point of like, why doesn't Groot get more stuff to do? And I think he asks me why isn't Groot more of a character or something like that? And all I said was, he's gaming. He can't save the world right now. I think he's just playing like Space Invaders or something. But I still find that really funny. Well, it's two things I find funny. I'm guessing the movie takes place in like a single day. It didn't seem like time was passing by very fast. But also that Groot is there. He's in the spaceship with Rocket. They go to the place where Thor gets the axe. They're like Thor's companions for the whole movie. He gets to go on the battlefield, but throughout almost this entire crazy adventure, he's just gaming. I find that really freaking funny. But at least Rocket gets to do stuff. Rocket becoming besties with Thor. I liked that. Because I sort of remember with the next movie, I think Thor becomes like the leader of the Avengers for a bit or something like that. Or he gets to be part of their group. I think I was mad about that originally when I watched the movie for whatever reason. I know I'm like kind of referencing Endgame here, but I think I don't mind. And you know what? Him getting along with Rocket, I think, worked out nicely. Actually, I really like their interactions. I just want to talk about that for a minute. Like Rocket lying about being the captain and trying to impress Thor and stuff, and then eventually Thor gets sad about all the people he lost, and you hear Rocket say to himself, like, okay, time to be the captain. He actually not only gives him a new eye, but he also tries to, like, give him a bit of a pep talk. I thought that was a nice scene. Kind of shows more character growth for Rocket, but man, I feel so fucking bad for Thor. Like he loses two of his most important people, like at literally the start of the movie. He doesn't have his eye anymore, or his dad, or his sister, even though I think his sister basically caused everyone to die from what I remember. And he, poor guy, tries to be so cheerful. You can like really hear it when he's like talking to Rocket and stuff, at least a little bit of like trying to still be positive, but dude is at his breaking point. I feel so bad for him. I don't remember how that continues into Endgame, because then I know there's another Thor movie. I think there's like at least one or two I'm like behind. I know there's the one with like Christian Bale. I think it's called God and Thunder, something like that. I know that one. I have the one with Christian Bale as the villain. I haven't seen. I think there's another one where where Thor ends up playing like Fortnite or something, and has to like kind of become Thor again. I think I saw whichever one that one is. I can't remember what that one was called. Armageddon, Ragnarok. Okay, anyway. No, I think Ragnarok's the one where Asgard gets destroyed. That one for sure I saw, which is great because that's the one I think that's like the most plot important in terms of this movie. In terms of like Thor movies, I think. Okay, and then it gets to the stuff where Vision and Wanda like are introduced into the plot. I didn't really remember a lot about the two of them. Actually, from what I remembered the show WandaVision coming out, which I remember I wanted to watch, but I think I didn't have Disney Plus at the time. And I know like that one takes place after this and Endgame, and then there's like a Doctor Strange movie where Wanda's like the villain, and I'm assuming all of that is like a reference to like what, or influenced by like her losing Vision here and stuff. And I kept thinking as I was watching the movie, like, damn it, girly, I know you love him, but you gotta destroy that stone for the sake of everyone else. But then at the same time, it's like you see when it's the two of them just happy trying to have their time together and stuff, before the plot happens, and they just seem nice together, that I'm like, okay, I kind of get it of why she didn't want to kill him and stuff. Something else, I think part of what ruined this rewatch for me, it's not this specific rewatch, but it's like any rewatch of this movie, just a tiny 1% little ruined for me, is that I forgot there was like a billion freaking memes that came out of this movie. I'm sure there's one for Endgame as well. I don't remember them currently, but I just forgot how many memes in general came out of this movie, to the point where there was at least, like, I'm making up a number here, like 6 of them or something, and a couple of times I had to try not to laugh as I was watching this, or else I probably would have had to explain to my parents what memes are, why I was laughing. And it's a bummer because a lot of them are from like really like sad or incredibly serious scenes, and I didn't want to laugh. Like, in context, they're not funny in like the slightest, but I'm so used to them as memes, but also, especially when the movie originally came out, but also some of them have been like meme templates and formats for like so many years now. I'm used to it, that it's like really weird to see in the original context. Like, there's one of the ones where Thanos talks to like little Gamora at the end when he uses the stones, and that's like one of the most probably important parts of the movie, and that one specifically I'm so used to have seen like everywhere for like a long time as like a meme, basically, that it was so weird for me. That was, I think, the point where I almost laughed a little, in that of like, oh, it's the meme, but no, I think one of the first one to me where I remembered specifically that it was a meme was when Thanos is distracting, and it's like a serious scene. Thanos is distracting child Gamora after his goons are like about to murder all her people and stuff, or I think like it was like half the planet, but it like includes her mom, and he says the perfectly balanced is all things should be, and I thought of the meme template and everything. Actually, I think most of the memes come from Thanos. I find that interesting. But yeah, then I think you get the part with Gamora and Peter. I didn't remember if they were like a couple or not, because I know with the third one it's like with however she gets revived in Endgame, but it's not like, the Gamora we all know and love from like the first 2 movies. But yeah, her and Star-Lord, I didn't remember as like a couple. I remember at the second movie, it felt like they were kind of reaching that point, but weren't there yet. But then in this one, they like kiss after he promises to like not kill her, or promises to kill her. I'm sorry. Or there's this part when the Guardians are first introduced, and they're singing along to some song, and both her and Star-Lord are like lip syncing to this song. They're like singing along to whatever song it is that's playing on the radio. It's kind of sad. Like, this is the point where they're like the closest, where it's like, okay, yeah, they are basically just a couple at this point, and they do get to kiss, and then she like dies in this one. I mean, at least you have most of the movie where she's alive and stuff, but you know, then she ends up getting taken by Thanos and doesn't get to see any of her friends again. It's like, man, like even the point when she asks Star-Lord to kill her when she's like right by Thanos, and she says that line of like, I love you more than anything, and I'm like, oh man. I think those parts kind of hit harder, you know, after watching the third movie, and like his reaction of like, you know, her being there but it's not her, and he's trying to win her back the whole movie. And I remember when I watched the third Guardians, you know, with this rewatch and stuff, I was like, dude, you gotta move on. But now after watching the other two, and then especially after watching this one, I'm like, damn, I get it though, you loved her, you know, it's like a whole thing. But yeah, she's the character I feel sorry for the most throughout this, where she, you know, she doesn't know she's gonna die obviously, but she at least knows about where the soul stone is, and she's the only person that knows, and her having to give up what planet it's on just to save like Nebula and everything. I forgot that Nebula actually didn't have a big role in this, you know, where she's already like taken by Thanos at that point and like literally getting torn apart, and he treats her like such dog shit. I feel so bad for Nebula. Like there's this part where she's gonna fight Thanos or something, and she says like, I'll kill you, and he just says, or I think she says like, you should have killed me, and he just straight up tells her to her face like, oh, that would have been a waste of spare parts. Like, dude, this is supposed to be one of your daughters. I know Gamora's the favorite to the point where you get a stone because you apparently love her, but like, come on, bro. I do like the reveal, the part when the Guardians go to find the Collector, and they're trying to get the green, no, not the green stone, I'm sorry, the green one's the one that, no, they're trying to get the Reality Stone. Yeah, that's the red one. I'm mostly just remembering these from like colors at this point. They're trying to get the Reality Stone, and they try to kill Thanos, and my dad was even, I heard him say like, oh, that's too easy once they stab him. But and then it's the reveal that he already has the stone, and he's already destroyed the place, and they've been in that destroyed place, and the whole thing has been a trap. I think that's one of the coolest parts of the movie. Wait, hold on. And something else, you know, Iron Man ends up getting mad about, like, he mentions this point of, like, Thanos sending, he's been on my brain for, like, 6 years, and he sent that army to New York. I'm assuming, and I'm asking these rhetorically, I'm gonna watch the original Avengers from, like, 2012 at some point, I promise. I might actually, you know what, I might actually do that tomorrow if I have access to that TV before watching Endgame, which is going to be so weird, but it depends if I have time. Yeah, because it's like 6 years ago, and sending the army to New York and stuff. If I'm assuming that's the first Avengers movie, does that mean the point between this and Infinity War, which has been a buttload of other movies and characters getting their own movies, has that just, and I'm asking this rhetorically again, has that seriously just been 6 years? I thought it would have been like a decade or something. I mean, not that anyone ages, and I know I'm basing it off real time. I thought some of these movies were sort of happening in real time anyway, but I don't know. Let's see, what else? Thor, oh, I have more notes about Thor, yeah. Thor knowing how to speak Groot being just such a casual thing was funny to me. He mentions it was like an elective, and Groot's the only Groot we've ever seen. I don't know if that's like his name or his species still. I don't remember from the first Guardians, but I find that just as like a very easy workaround of like, yeah, somebody else understands Groot besides Rocket, and you know, besides the Guardians, because they spend enough time with him, they all understand him. I find that funny. Or just the whole thing of like Groot being a teenager in this, just being funny as well. Like, he's still growing, and then he gets to be fully grown by Guardians 3. I remember when I originally watched this, I was disappointed he wasn't at full strength again, but I just find it funny that, like, you know, he's a teenager, he's like a bit stronger, he does at least become Thor's the handle of the axe and stuff with cutting off his arm, but Yeah, the fact that he can't really do anything because he doesn't want to, because he's a teenager and he just wants to play Space Invaders the whole time, as Thanos is literally planning to wipe out half of the population fucking everywhere, is just the funniest shit to me. Tony getting to meet the Guardians was pretty funny. That was one of the funniest parts of the movie to me. Not like laugh out loud funny, but it was like a little bit. I guess because he's probably so used to having serious teammates of, like, you know, the freaking Avengers and stuff, and the Guardians just, and him saying this affectionately, just being goofy idiots, specifically Drax and Mantis, was pretty funny. Oh, I'm actually almost done with my notes. Sweet. The Gamora death scene, I think that's in my opinion, one of the best scenes in the movie, where she laughs and she gives this whole little speech of like, you don't love anyone, you're basically finally getting your just desserts, and I love the part when she's like, oh, tears, really? And then Red Skull's like, oh, they're not for him, they're for you, and she realizes she's going to die, and she can't stab him, she can't leave, and he grabs her and throws her off the cliff. I'm glad it's not in a way where it's like too aggressive. Like, I remember when I first watched, I thought he was just gonna like pick her up and like one-handed like yeet her over that cliff, like throwing a baseball or something, but then I remembered, oh yeah, he really does care about her, and he grabs her by the hand, and you have the slow-mo where she's freaking out, and then he throws her over the cliff and she falls off and everything. And yeah, it's crazy. I didn't really think about it until the movie brought it up, where he says something that's basically like getting away, she was able to get away with everything in like the other Guardians movies because he just cares about her that much and kind of just let everything slide pretty much. But then here he's like, nope, not this time, and you know, he like throws her off that ledge and everything. Just the fact that he really did care about her, that it's like a sacrifice. And even Mantis, you know, later saying of like, oh, he's mourning her. I'm not saying that's like a big reason to like sympathize with him or anything, but yeah, all those times he was saying she really was the favorite, and Gamora saying for like the other two Guardians movies of like how much she hates Thanos. They even have a whole little scene about it where she's like, oh, I hate your throne, and he's like, yeah, I know, you've been telling me that for the last 20 years or whatever. It's crazy. But she's no, never mind. What am I saying? She's not, I wrote in my notes originally, she's like, man, the first major character to die, and I'm like, wait, Loki died at the beginning, which I completely forgot about that until Thor brings it up when he's talking to Rocket, and I felt bad, and I was like, oh yeah, he got killed, and I like him as a character, and I've just completely forgotten about that. And then they have to fight the big, you know, there's the big fight at Wakanda, that's like the really big fight. It's a cool setting, and it's neat that it's the setting for like the big fight where they fight against the aliens and stuff. I wish it was used better, because I feel like it's a really cool location, especially as you get to see so much of it in like the Black Panther movies. But then in this movie, it's just they're standing in that big field, and the only two locations you get to see is like the place where they're doing like the surgery on Vision, and the big field where everyone's fighting. And it's like, this location is so cool, and we're just seeing it as like this big field as like a battlefield, and that's it. It made me feel like it was a wasted location. They might as well have been on Earth. I mean, they are on Earth. What am I trying to say? They could have been like anywhere on Earth, you know, and that had like a big field, and it could have worked. I mean, okay, I know they had to specifically be in Wakanda to like do the surgery and Vision. I get that's like the whole fucking point of them having this big fight and everything, but I feel like as a location, with how cool it is, it was wasted to just be kind of reduced to a battlefield. That's what I'm trying to say. I wish it was used better as a location. The part where Thor is able to take the full force of that star in order to make the like Stormbreaker axe, that was a pretty cool part. You know, I already mentioned my parents watching this movie entirely for Groot, so the part when Groot becomes part of Thor's axe, where he cuts off his arm and puts it on there, was like a big deal for them. I made a joke at some point in the movie to my mom. I said something of like, I think it was when my dad said, like, how come Groot isn't in this movie more, and I was like, oh, you know, this isn't about the Guardians, this is about everybody, and there's, like, kind of more important characters here. And I said to my mom something of, like, you two are probably the only people going in this movie to specifically see it for Groot. For context, I like Groot as a character, I like all the Guardians, you know, I like the Guardians movies, but it's just really funny to me, you know, with this being the movie where it's like, this is it, this is what the Marvel movies have been building up to for 10 years, and how big a deal it is, and everyone getting to interact, and then watching this movie with two people who want to see someone that is like an incredibly just minor character in the grand scheme of all of this is a really interesting kind of entertaining thing with this movie. The "You're Home" meme, it was beautiful. I'm not quoting that correctly, but it's the one where Strange is talking to Thanos. I forgot that was even a meme until I got to that dialogue, and I was like, oh yeah, because that's another meme template. I'm not really seeing any of these as like memes anymore, but it was like such a big thing for a while after this movie came out. I think because this movie was so much in like the cultural impact of this movie when it came out was so insane, and the fact that I got to experience it firsthand from being in that theater and being just chronically online at that point, or I think almost at that point, I think makes this movie so much weirder to watch as a rewatch, where I like partially can't take it as seriously as if I'd never seen any of the memes. It's like so intertwined with the movie. But okay, hey, I've gone through all my notes. Sweet. The last one I have is saying how like it's fun watching the characters meet for the first time and interact with each other, that I wish we didn't have to wait like 10 years for it. Because there's a lot of characters in this movie that just personality wise and joke wise and whatever match really well together. That I mean, that's like the thing with the Avengers, is like you're getting all of these characters together, but especially with this one where it's like everybody gets together. And you know what, for a movie where it's really serious, where, you know, they gotta fight the big purple dude and everything, I'm really glad this movie takes many points where it gets to like chill a little bit, where characters, you know, they have some time to properly meet each other in between like action scenes, and we get jokes and stuff. That's really nice, and I think it kind of lightens things up with the movie in between all the like the deaths and everything. And you know, I do find it interesting. It finally made sense to me. At first I was like, damn, it's just half the population they're taking off, you know, when you get to the end of this movie. And then I realized when I was looking at all the people that were left, I'm like, oh, okay, they're like specifically saving the heavy hitters. They're getting, you know, they're not going to have Groot for that final fight as an example, though that's still funny to me. That was the part where my parents were both audibly like, no, when that happened. And then they just, I think when it got to Wanda being erased, my mom said something like, okay, good, like, because she didn't kill Vision earlier or whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, if I rewatch, or not rewatch, what am I saying, if I at some point get to watch the other movies, and I'll rewatch that scene where people get snapped at the end, and I guarantee I'll get like a bit more emotional, or something might make me like just clutch my chest or whatever. But no, not this time. But yeah, no, the scene with Spider-Man when he gets snapped, that I think it's just the way it is, just kind of gets me a little bit. And I don't even have that much of an emotional attachment to like that specific Spider-Man or anything. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this. It's still really good. It still holds up like 10 years later. I mean, it's not exactly 10 years. I think like pretty much just about, yeah, this came out in like, what did I say, 2018, 2017, it's 2026. That feels so freaking crazy to say. It's gonna be 2027. Yeah, so this would be like 10 years old or something by the time. That's crazy. It doesn't feel like it's that long, but at the same time, I haven't really paid attention to like anything from Marvel since Endgame. That was the last Marvel movie I'd like actively made the effort to watch. So in my mind, there's been no more movies. I don't care if any of them have been good, but that's been my that's been my experience basically. So in my head, this movie and Endgame feels like it only came out like 6 years ago, and that's not true anymore. But I mean, there will be Avengers Doomsday at some point. Maybe that will already have like a trailer, like an actual trailer, not like a freaking AI trailer or whatever. By the time this video comes, I mean, this video is going to come out in like late 2027 or mid 2027, so maybe there'll be more. But yeah, I'm pre-recording this a year in advance because that's when I'm watching the movie. But yeah, this one's good. I don't remember from when I originally watched this in Endgame, also again because, you know, I had to wait a year along with everyone else originally, which one I liked better, but as its own, it stands on its own is what I can say. As a movie and everything, it's really good. I mean, obviously you finish it and you're like, whoa, everyone got snapped, and you like want to know what's gonna happen next. And you know, I do kind of like the ending of this movie. You know, Thanos is just interesting to me as a character where, I mean, of course his actions are atrocious. He's wiping out half the population of everywhere, but you know, the reason he's doing it, of like, he lost his own planet and everything, and then he's trying to kind of prevent the same fate, except, and I do appreciate that it's not like he's targeting just the detail that he's not like targeting specific people. I mean, except that time, you know, when he did it to like Gamora's planet, but it's that the snap truly is kind of random in a sense of like, it could be just the idea, it could be anyone, but he's accomplishing his goal of like, okay, half the population is gone, you know. And then because he's the way he talks about it throughout the movie is treating it as this monumental task where it's like, no one asked me to do it, but it's up to me, you guys will be grateful and everything, you know. Even though they're all trying to kill him and everything, literally no one else wants this, I think, except for like Thanos and his goons or whatever, which is the fact that the ending is him, you know, as he said, he's looking at that sunset of the grateful universe or whatever, and he just goes to that little house in the middle of like who knows where and just kind of takes a breather, and I think he fucking smiles. And then it's funny to me with Endgame, it's like where everyone's still like grieving and it's like, holy shit, half the population's gone. From what I remember, I think Thanos becomes like a farmer or something, like he goes to find peace and rest after doing this like monstrous unasked for task, you know. It's just interesting but kind of funny to me. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. It's really good. I'd watch it again. I don't think I'd watch it again immediately, but maybe I could see this being something I could watch in like any number of years and I'd be good, you know. And it stands on its own. I'm happy to say that, because in my head I was thinking like, man, I'm gonna have to watch Endgame immediately afterwards, not like literally as a double feature, because I would probably just pass out at that point, but that would just be too much in front of a screen for me. But yeah, I'm happy to say it holds up in rewatch, and it can stand alone, and it's just a pretty good movie. I'm almost a little worried I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna watch Endgame and I'm gonna be like, damn, Infinity War is better. There is a chance of that, but I don't know. But yeah, sorry that with this video, it's that, you know, I haven't seen a lot of these movies. I feel really bad because I feel like this movie, specifically this one in Endgame, entirely just the emotional impact of it for you entirely depends on how many of the movies did you see beforehand. And I know you could say that for like any movie in the MCU, because that's like literally how they're designed, but like this one specifically being the one where it's like the Smash Bros meme, everyone is here, that's this movie specifically. So its enjoyment, you know, even as a good movie, kind of depends on that. And sadly, I did not do my job of watching more, not even like all of them, but just watching more of them. But hey, at least I rewatched Guardians, and I mean, that's kind of where Thanos comes from, and it made the Guardians parts more impactful, so I did something right at least. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't my original intention of like, I'm gonna watch Endgame and Infinity War at like this specific time or whatever. I just saw that they were on YouTube TV, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch these again. And I feel like that just didn't really hit me until as I was watching them, you know. So maybe I might get to watch the original Avengers movie. I have literally within one day, and then that night I gotta watch Endgame. So we'll see. So if I do, you might get a review of it. That's gonna be so weird again of like watching Avengers and watching Endgame. But if I don't get the chance, you know, that's that. I mean, hey, I'm gonna have some interesting thoughts whether I watch it before or after Endgame. We'll see. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.